For years, we've been practicing, revising our skills to get ready for this versus moment. We are going to be comparing the two biggest flagships in the market. And of course, being a Techno Buffalo versus, there won't be a cop-out at the end. We will declare a winner. This is the iPhone X versus the Galaxy S9.
You know, that sounds like a little bit of fun. Can I join you on that?
You also want to piss off 50% of your audience?
Well, that's what YouTube is for, isn't it?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm MrMobile.
I'm Jon Rettinger from Techno Buffalo.
And this is iPhone X
versus Galaxy S9. So this is clearly a different versus. I am obviously outclassed by my co-host, but we are still going to compare these phones. And like I said, we are going to give a winner, but to make it a bit unique, Michael and I are each going to have a vote on each of our 4 categories, and they are camera, software, build, intangibles. As a bonus at the end, we're going to give sort of our personal opinions on the phones as a whole.
And just to make it a little more fun, we're going to split it into 2 videos. The first one is, of course, going to live here. It's what you're about to watch. The second one lives on my channel, youtube.com/themrmobile.
And of course, we'll link to it here, down below, and subscribe and check it out over there to see who the winner's going to be.
You want to find out?
Let's start it.
All right, let's not put it off. Let's do the hard one first.
You're going to tell everybody what operating system you prefer?
I am not going to do that. I'm going to do the camera bit. Cameras. Physically speaking, these are very similar. Right?
Very similar.
We've got, and we're talking about the S9 Plus here, we should clarify, not the standard S9.
We figured it was best apples to apples comparison.
I'm leaving, thank you. So we've got the 2 12-megapixel cameras on each. Both are optically stabilized on both their wide and telephoto lenses.
Yep.
Both have rather excessive low light capabilities, but one of them edges out the other already in that respect. So, I mean, you're putting the photos side by side, and if you can't immediately tell the difference, no one is going to blame you. But when you start taking them into extreme situations, like very, very dark environments, the S9 Plus starts showing its advantage.
So that's we start to see the advantage of like the variable aperture that Samsung has done. That's really the big difference with the 9 Plus versus the 8 Plus.
Yeah, and we've seen, I mean, by now we've seen endless close-up shots of this variable aperture doing its thing, this mechanical iris closing over the lens, and it is too cool. I could watch it forever. But what it results in the real world is that you can really get a whole lot more light into the camera, and I've gotten some really excellent low-light shots from the phone.
I will say, the general shots on Samsung, though, like Samsung likes to do, they're a little poppy, a little extra contrasty.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, with an iPhone, you tend to get a much more true-to-life, not much more, you get a slightly more true-to-life shot coming out of the phone that you can then manipulate as you like. Samsung tends to produce one that's a little more ready for instant Instagramming. And so if you want something that's a little more authentic, yeah, the iPhone is your way to go. But the thing that puts it over the top for me, there are 2 things. Can we talk about video?
Yeah.
Can we talk about super slow-mo?
I mean, I guess we have to.
Thank you. Everyone thinks it's a gimmick. I just adore it because I used it on a Sony phone for a while last summer, and you can really do some incredible time travel. So Samsung basically lifted that feature, and you can shoot at 960 frames a second for 1/5 of a second, which is all you need when you're shooting something really fast.
The iPhone camera, the camera though is no slouch on the iPhone. And I think when you compare pictures in normal light scenarios side by side, it's gonna come down to a preference. Do you like the poppier, more vibrant colors that Samsung tends to do? And I think to Samsung's credit, there's a lot less processing in the image than there was with like the Galaxy S8.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I think also though, like there is so much, I'm looking at the viewfinder right now, and there is so much packaged up in the S9's viewfinder that I tend to prefer because I like the ability to go manual and stuff without downloading another app. On the iPhone though, to your point, it is a much more just pick it up and shoot, and you're probably going to get something.
And that's kind of a microcosm for like iOS and Android. Yeah. Like you pick it up and it's going to work. You're getting more granular options. I mean, they've got a food mode built in. I mean, to the sensor. But you are getting still a really good camera, and I think when it comes to the iPhone pictures, you're getting colors that are more true to life, as opposed to sort of a little more vibrancy you get on Samsung.
Right.
So that's going to be a preference. I think we start to see a difference between the two. We talked about the variable apertures and low light. There's a definite difference with the artifacting in the background in low light situations. I think the slow-mo, if you're going to use it, it's a benefit to the Samsung. Apple has it, it's 240 at 1080. But also, Samsung has RAM built into their camera module to process all of those and to hold all those images that are coming in, which is very cool. But when you're picking a phone based just on camera, you're getting more with one of the phones than you are with the other.
And I think the trap can be very often just doing these side-by-side shots, which I do, and I like to see how they perform on the same screen, and I'll do the same photo with both phones, and I'm like, well, half the time I'll take one, half the time I'll take the other.
Yeah.
For me, the more important question to answer is what kind of camera experience do you want? And for me, given all the out-of-the-box options I get, the S9 Plus is the way that I tend to go.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would go that same way. But if I'm picking one up because I want the best pictures and I want the best video options, I'm still going for the Samsung. So let's go from a hard category to category littered with commenter landmines. Let's talk about software. All right, so starting the discussion with software, the iPhone, we talked about making this not an iOS versus Android, but the software experience I think is very relevant to the phone experience.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the iPhone, you're talking about ecosystem. And I think that's obviously Apple's bread and butter. That's why people come back to iPhones, things that just work together. You know, photos, iMessages, Apple Pay, all sort of
stuff.
Coming together in sort of one seamless, don't need to think about it package. And there are some things that are still infuriating with the iPhone X and an iOS experience. I can't simply add a shortcut to just direct dial my wife. I can't choose to just put my apps at the bottom of my screen without creating invisible shortcuts and sort of hacking it to make it work. There are a lot of OS shortcomings that all sort of boils down to customization.
Yeah, customization is the name of the game. And as always with Android, that's where it's just a bucket of choice. You can change your layout, you can change your options, you can change your widgets, you can have an always on display if you want to. If you don't like any of it, you can change your launcher. So you don't have to put up with it. You know, so there's a lot of added complexity that gets introduced as a result. I mean, the S9 is not as simple to immediately pick up and use as the iPhone X may be, especially if you're not coming from another Android phone. And there's a lot of duplicate functionality that Samsung has dropped onto it, but still, once again, we come back to the point I made in the camera section. You can do what you want. The option exists if you can think of it on the S9 Plus.
I really like the Samsung experience, which is what they're calling it now, you know, their sort of fork or skin on Android, whatever you want to call it, on the S9 line devices and on the Note line devices. I think it's really good, and in some ways, I think it's even better than what you get with stock.
Wow.
Some ways.
Bold move. Yeah, no, and I don't disagree one bit, because as I say, like even Android, stock Android has started to take after iOS in the ways of some kind of simplicity and, you know, like minimalism, and that's really cool in its own right. But if you want the option to do anything with the Samsung launcher, it's there.
And I do want to say, I think unique to the iPhone X, there is for the first time a software learning curve with the iPhone.
Yeah.
That, you know, Android is always a knock on Android. You have to learn how to use it. You have to relearn how to use iOS with the iPhone X.
And also, this is a point I did want to make in the iPhone's favor as well. But we've come to this point of saying like, well, iOS and Android are kind of equal in terms of what apps are supported and all this stuff, and that's largely true. But this is a fitness accessory, the Motive Smart Ring, that only has an iOS app right now, or last I checked. I use a microphone back in the studio that only has an iOS app. It's like, there is still an edge.
So if you had to pick one of these phones based solely on the software experience,
I don't think it's going to be any surprise. It would be the Galaxy S9 for me.
I've almost always gone Samsung versus when it comes to software until the iPhone X. I really like what Apple's done with iOS. There are a lot of things it can improve on, a lot of ways it can get better. Yeah, the app experience is still better on iOS. And for all of those reasons, I'm actually, for the first time in a while, I'm picking the iPhone X for software.
We thought we got the hard one out of the way. But now things get a little tighter when we talk about build.
Build quality.
What do we mean by that? Industrial design, how it feels in the hand, how it looks. We were going to say how it looks with the screen off, but no, the screen is a huge part in this, so do you mind if I jump right into the screen?
Do it up.
I think which one you prefer is going to depend an awful lot on that notch.
Oh, that notch.
And I don't think we need to go too far into how we each feel about the notch. I like it. I'm going to ask you how you feel about it.
I have become more notch impartial. I was not notch favorable at the beginning.
You were not notch friendly?
I was not notch friendly.
Notch friendly.
Notch friendly.
Always friendly. Yeah, I think I always quite liked it, actually. I like how the radiuses of all the corners match. I think it's really, really beautiful. But I think Samsung's approach is the cleaner one.
Yeah.
The prettier one. The screen still falls off the edges like it's done for a while in that infinity pool kind of thing. But you get this rather nice symmetry between top and bottom. Yeah, there's a little bit of a taller forehead in the S9 Plus, but I don't know, it's less distinctive.
I said this in my review, and I think it's becoming less a matter of opinion and more a matter of fact that Samsung makes the best displays in the business.
Yeah.
And even if you like the display on the iPhone better,
you still like a Samsung display.
Samsung made the display on the Apple iPhone X. So just wrap your head around that if you didn't know it.
Right. And also, we shouldn't say that there are not differences, though. I feel like the iPhone X does have a more favorable score in terms of color tuning. It's a little more accurate. But if you can see that with the naked eye, you have much better eyes than I do.
Yeah.
To me, both of these displays are just stunning.
I like the higher contrast, too, of the Samsung display.
Yeah.
That's a personal preference thing, but I prefer it. I still think the displays on the Samsung line of phones look like stickers. They don't even look like real phones.
Yeah. But if you like a phone that changes its white point all the time to match the room it's in,
yeah.
Samsung does this to a degree. Apple does it better. It's one of those really tiny little pieces of attention to detail that Apple's just been doing for a while.
I agree. So what about the builds the rest of the way around the phone?
This is where it's really, really, really difficult, because I think both of these are finished tremendously. But in my view, one of them comes away, not the clear winner, but the winner if you think about it for a second.
Okay.
And I think it's the iPhone X.
Why?
Because it's made of, the Galaxy S9 is 7000 series aluminum. Correct. That's great. It's stronger than the previous aluminum they were using. This is stainless steel.
And this is an interesting category. I think in previous gens, especially with the S8, Samsung would run away with this category versus any of the competition, because the S8 design was like peak smartphone design. Mm-hmm. And it's an S year for Samsung. A lot of phone manufacturers do that. It's an iterative update, whereas this generation, this is a completely new look, feel, design, everything.
For the iPhone X.
For the iPhone X.
Yeah. And still, it has preserved. You know what the one thing is that gave the iPhone X the win for me? Can I say that yet?
Yeah, you can say it. I haven't given my winner yet.
Spoiler alert. I like the iPhone one better, but I had to take the phones apart to do it. Not really. I had to pop a SIM tool into the SIM tray, pull them both out, and you know that feeling if you've moved into enough Samsung phones where it flexes around because it's plastic.
Yeah.
Because who cares about the SIM tray? Apple did the thing where they paint the back side of the fence or whatever, because you never see it except when you first move into the phone, and it's that really nice metal SIM tray, and you know the whole phone is built to that standard of excellence. So that's what put it over the top for me, as foolish as you may think that is. Not you, you.
So for me, looking at both these phones, I love the way they both feel. The iPhone X just feels different, perhaps because it is different for Apple. I mean, despite my hairline notch built into the top, I don't mind that, and I've gotten used to it more than I did at the beginning. I love the build of the iPhone X. I can deal with the notch, I can deal with the camera humps. I love the way that phone is constructed, and you feel like you are holding something incredibly premium, which is not to say that an S9 isn't, but I could close my eyes and hold an S8 and an S9, and they feel the same. Premium, but the same. But for this category, it's the iPhone X. So we covered a lot of landmine categories, but we are not done in our verses. We still have yet to cover intangibles. We've yet to declare our winner. And for the first time in a verses, we're gonna talk a little bit more about personal preference. So if you wanna see who wins, you wanna see those categories, there's only one place to do it.
That's at my YouTube channel. youtube.com/TheMrMobile. We're going to cover the rest of that and maybe make some people mad, make some people happy.
Probably a little bit of both. So we're going to link to Michael's channel down below. Go check out that video, and while you're there, of course, hit that subscribe button, because who wouldn't want to see that face pop up pretty regularly?
Wow.
And also is one of the best in the business. So if you like tech videos and you haven't checked out Michael, you're not going to find anyone better than what he's going to be putting out.
You're too kind. If I may, one thing before we go over there, you do have to be in uniform. So I brought you something.
Let's roll.